My goal today, we're going to talk about the election, but my goal is to hopefully give you a couple of things that you can use to maybe make a video, some posts, some things as you're talking to people about the impact of the election. Is that, is going to dominate what most of us talk about, think about, or see over the next, kind of 24, 48 hours. So let's talk about this. 4 reasons why the election won't dampen the housing market. So a lot of things happening in the housing market that, certainly the election is going to dominate news coverage, but will not impact. And if you haven't read today's blog, the 4 reasons are pretty straightforward, and no doubt ones that you're familiar with as we've gone through the last several months of very strong demand out there across the country, and we talk about in the blog demand specifically from millennials that want to go out and buy a home. Second, low interest rates are driving a lot of that demand, and we're going to talk about that new MBA projection out about the forecast going forward of mortgage rates. Price appreciation very strong across the country as we look at the housing market, and the limited supply, very, very active demand keeping upward pressure on prices. So we know price appreciation is continuing very strong. And fourth, the history of what the housing market shows us. And so, I want to go back through, a couple of slides you may have seen before that we've used at KCM to talk about the election, historically speaking, to give you some perspective there. Again, maybe to record a video, what you're talking about, what you're doing this week as people have questions about the election, or you want to put content out into the market to educate buyers and sellers on what's happening with the election. So as we get started here, I want to give you this first slide. You may have seen it before. This is from the BTIG home building report, the percent change in actual monthly new home sales, November versus October as impacted by an election. So what is this information here? The blue bar there represents sales in a non-presidential election year, November versus October. So what that's saying right there is in a non-presidential election year, we lose about 9.8% or 10% of sales in November versus what we sold in October. So if we sold 100 homes in October, we're going to sell 90 in November in a non-presidential election year. The orange bar represents where we're at right now, a presidential election year. We lose about 15% of the volume in a presidential election year. So if we sold 100 homes in October, we're going to sell 85 in November as compared to the non-presidential election year where we said we'd sell about 90. Now, the interesting thing about this is we don't lose those home sales. What actually happens there is people say, hey, I'm concerned. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to sit and watch how this all plays out and then make a decision down the road. I've used the analogy before of the restaurant business, certainly a business that's been impacted by the pandemic and the downturn of the last 6 months, where in the restaurant business, if a restaurant is not able to serve its customers on a Friday night and you can't go there with your family to enjoy a meal, that doesn't mean you don't eat. What you do is you eat at home, you figure out somewhere else to get the meal, and when the restaurant opens back up, you go back there. Now, our business is not like the restaurant business. If somebody decides not to buy a home in the month of November, that doesn't mean they don't decide to do that. It means it gets pushed off into a month or two later into the next year, and those reasons for buying a home are not squelched or undermined by a presidential election. Now, a quote here that I've used before by Ali Wolf, who's the chief economist at Myers Research. She says, history suggests that the slowdown is largely concentrated in the month of November. In fact, the year after a presidential election is the best of the 4-year cycle. This suggests that demand for new housing is not lost because of election uncertainty. Rather, it gets pushed out to the following year as long as the economy stays on track. So she's saying, hey, we're not going to lose those deals just like we talked about. They just get pushed out as people say, hey, with all the uncertainty, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not sure what I should do. And so I think we need to remember that as we're talking to people that are in the market right now. We go back to the BTIG home building report. They say this may indicate that potential home buyers may become more cautious in the face of national election uncertainty. This caution is temporary and ultimately results in deferred sales as the economy, jobs, interest rates, and consumer confidence all have far more meaningful roles in the home purchase decision than a presidential election, the results in the months that follow. So what do we know right now? The economy is improving. We just saw GDP come out with the advanced estimate last week in growth in the economy. We know we have interest rates that are driving demand. We talked about that before. Unemployment, we want to see it continue to come down, but people getting jobs back and consumer confidence being driven and consumer spending being driven through this pandemic. So all of those things are far more influential in determining whether people buy homes or not than just a presidential election. But I do believe there's uncertainty right now, and there are people that say, hey, you know what, I want to see how this is all going to kind of shape out, put their hands in their pockets and say, let's see what happens. So as you're talking with people, I think being able to give them context of historically how the market has reacted to a presidential election year and the months, and then the months that follow after that, how we've seen that play out. But I think there are some interesting things that I'll share with you that just came out here from Zillow on the top 3 reasons homeowners are not putting their homes on the market right now. 31% say financial uncertainty. The uncertainty of, something going to happen to my job, do I need to hold on to money for what may be coming in the future, is a concern for a lot of people. 34% life, say just life in general is too uncertain right now. What are the next few weeks going to bring? What are the next few months going to bring? Not only with coronavirus, but with the election, with other things people are dealing with. They just say life in general is uncertain. A quarter of people, 25%, cite specifically health concerns related to the pandemic and COVID-19 as a reason for not putting their home on the market. So we talked about this, and the number of people that say, hey, I don't feel like it's a good time right now to list my house as we turn into the new year, and certainly hope that we see more good news coming out around the pandemic, see more information coming out that helps people become certain we can expect those homes to come on the market and to be ready for those. Jeff Tucker, senior economist at Zillow, says homeowners who feel life is uncertain right now may think they can still get a strong price if they delay selling until they have more clarity. The catch is that waiting to sell may raise the cost of a trade-up. This follows record low mortgage rates, which make a trade-up more affordable on a monthly basis, are not guaranteed to last. Interesting there is we're looking at low interest rates right now. Even a little bit of movement in interest rates, people are going to go, okay, interest rates are going back up, makes a 3.5% or 4% mortgage look high. And we've talked about that. But, as we look out into the future, I think that's the one thing we need to talk about right now is the forecast of what's being said about interest rates. And NBA just came out with their forecast, and the underlying theme there is prepare for mortgage rates to rise. Now, look at 2020, right around 3% on a 30-year fixed. Going into 2021, 3.3%, then 3.6, 3.9 in the years to follow. Now, I think we can argue those aren't high rates, but as that goes up, people go, okay, look, they're not where they were. So if there's anything, the complacency around low rates is what we need to be talking about and saying, hey, look, we don't know what tomorrow brings. As we look at inflation, we look at other things bearing down on the mortgage market. I think MBA is saying, hey, look for those to prepare to rise. Now the question is how quickly, how fast they rise. But getting that message out is what we have to do right now relative to uncertainty in the market. People saying, is this the right time to buy and sell a home, and getting out there. So I'm grateful for the time that you all spend starting your day with the deep dive and getting this information. Hopefully it helps you this week as you're preparing to speak to people maybe about the election, about something else going on right now, and getting them to understand what's happening in the market.